Welcome to this chapter where we are going to learn about Django Beginner. Before we begin and start learning about Django, let's have a quick introduction about what Django is. Django is a high-level Python web framework that makes it easier to build better web applications faster and with less code. So Django is fast, it's very secure and exceedingly scalable, meaning you can use Django to build small websites for low number of traffic, or you can use Django to build the next Netflix or the next YouTube, right? And in the world, some of the top companies use Django to build their web application like YouTube, Instagram, Udemy, Pinterest, Quora, and much more. Let's look at something interesting. To understand how valuable Django is, here is the list of, for example, top Django developers on Upwork, and you can see how much they charge hourly. For example, $75 per hour, 25, 60, 60, 30, 120, 40, 30, 125, 33, 40, okay? So Django is very valuable, and I can say not every developer knows how to use it, and I can say this is why it is very valuable. And if you know how to use Django to create advanced web applications, it's a huge bonus as a developer, right? So let's look at the chapters that we are going to have in Django. So if you learn these chapters, these 7 chapters, you're going to master Django. The first one is how to set up a project and applications, which we are going to learn about it in this chapter, okay? The next one is about URLs and views, okay? Using this system, you can connect different pages on your website together. And then we have models, which are blueprint to create new objects, which is really important and will give you this ability to create new objects. For example, new products. If you want to have, you are going to create a sample, a blueprint, and then use that blueprint to create a lot of different objects from that. It's very fun and very easy to use the system, especially if you want to have a massive website. And then we will have admin panel and its settings, how you can start your admin panel and you can use it to create new content for your web application. And after that, we will have forms and capturing data, which is really important, especially on web applications. And we are going to learn all about that. Number 6, we are going to learn more about database types and how we can connect each database to our web application. And finally, we are going to learn more about settings and advanced tools connected to it, okay? So these are all the 7 chapters that if you learn them, you master Django, okay? So set up a project and applications, connecting URLs and pages together, creating models, starting the admin panel, creating forms and database, and finally, for the deployment, change the settings that is required, okay? So that was all about introduction to Django, and on the next part, we are going to learn how we can set it up. So see you on the next lesson. Welcome to the next part. In this lesson, we are going to learn how we can install Django. But before that, because Django is a framework of Python, you must have Python on your system. So if you don't have, you can simply come to python.org and come here, click on downloads. And then you have the ability to download Python. Download Python, the final version is here. Or if you want lower versions, you can come here and go through the versions that you want and find them and install it on your system. It's very simple. Just follow the steps to install it. And after that, we need to open terminal. So if you're on Mac, hold Command and a space to open the search bar here and write down terminal, okay? Press open and the terminal will be open. If you are on Windows, at the bottom of the screen, there is a search bar. Inside it, write down CMD, which is short for command, and press enter and it will open something similar to this. And let me make it bigger. And let's zoom in. So after you open terminal, write down Python 3. Okay, Python 3 is the version that we installed, and press enter to make sure that you have Python. After you press enter, here you see the version of the Python that you have. For me, it is 3.10. If you don't see this, if it shows something else to you, it means that you don't have Python and you need to install it again, okay? So after you made sure that you have Python installed on your system, press Ctrl and D, and then we need to install Django. And since Django is a framework of Python, we need to use Python to install it on our system. And you should write this command exactly letter by letter on your terminal. So you should write down Python 3-m space pip space install space Django. Okay, so I'm going to repeat it. Python 3 space -m space pip space install space Django. Okay, so when you wrote it down, press enter and it will install Django for you. And since I had it, it didn't install it for me. And to make sure that you have installed Django, write down Django-admin. Okay, press enter and it will show some codes here, some lines of text here, and then there is a red thing that it looks like an error, but it's not an error. Okay, these are sub commands. Okay, these are the available sub commands for Django. If you see something like this and then something red like this, it means that you have installed Django and you're ready to use it. Okay, if you don't see this, you need to go through the steps again and find where maybe you had a misspell in writing the codes and commands and it's not installed. Okay, you have to check it again. So that was all about this lesson, and on the next part we are going to use Django to create our very first project. See you on the next lesson. In the previous lesson we learned how we can install Django on our system, and in this part we'll learn how we can create a new project, a new Django project on our computer. Now we need to use terminal to create that project. First I'm going to come here and write down clear to clear my page, and then we need to go to the folder that we want to create our project. On my desktop I have created a folder called my project, and inside this my project folder on my desktop I want to create my Django project. And first of all, in terminal I must come here and then create my project. Okay, we can do it using cd command, and if you are not familiar with terminal and if it is hard for you to navigate through terminal, you can click on the link in the resources of this lesson. I have added a page here, introduction to command line, and here it will tell you about some of the basic commands that you can use to navigate through terminal. For example, pwd will show where you are. Okay, I'm in users in Puya, and for example ls or list will show you what exists inside that folder. And then we have cd or change directory. Okay, you can use cd to go to different folders. For example, I can come here and write down ls and it will show me all the files inside that directory, and I want to go to desktop. Okay, so I'm going to come here and write down cd desktop. Okay, and it will go into desktop, and here I have a folder called my dash project. So I'm going to write down cd my dash project, and the dictation must be exactly similar to what you have. Okay, now I'm inside my project, and if I write down ls, it should be empty. It is empty, right? And if I write down pwd, it will tell me that I'm in users, Puya, desktop, my project. Okay, now here I'm going to create my first Django project, and I have to write down this command to create a new Django project. I have to write down Django-admin space start project. Okay, and let me make it smaller so you can see all of it in one line, space, and then I have to select the name of my project, which in this case I'm going to write down my shop. Okay, so Django-admin space start project space my shop. Okay, press enter, and it seems that nothing happened, but if I go to my folder, now we have a my shop here. Okay, so this is our first Django project created, and inside it we have manage.py and another folder called my shop, and inside it there are some other Python files. And on the next lesson we are going to learn more about each of these files here and where we can use them and where we should write our code. Okay, so that was all about this lesson. If you have any question, write it down for me. If not, I will see you on the next part. So let's learn more about each of the files that exist in our Django project. But before that, let's open our project inside VS Code. So here we are, and I'm gonna come to File, Open, and I have to navigate to where my project exists, Desktop, My Project, and My Shop, okay? And then click on Open, and yes, and close all of these things here. And here are our folders. So we have a manage.py, which is our server, okay? And you should not touch it at all, okay? You should not touch it at all. And then we have a my shop folder. The first file here is in it, okay? You don't need to worry about this. We are not going to use it, and just let it be there. And then the files that I'm going to talk about it now, one of them is settings, okay? Which as we go forward in our project, we are going to use this settings file and make some changes or add some new codes to it. And then we have URLs, which in the chapters of Django topic, I mentioned that we have a chapter about URLs, okay? And this is the file that we are going to use to connect different pages together. And as we go forward, I will teach you when we get to that topic. And we have two other files here, asgi.py and wsgi.py, which later when we get to the production, we need to make some changes. So don't worry about it now. So all the things that we are going to touch during the course for now, it will be settings and URLs. And at the production level, at the last step, we are going to use ASGI or WSGI, okay? So these are the files that exist right now in our project. And on the next lesson, we are going to learn how we can start our server. And after that, we will create our own application inside this project and then start to build that application, okay? So that was all about this part, and I will see you on the next lesson. In this part, we will learn how we can start our Django server. But first, this is the website. This is the official website of Django, djangoproject.com. And you can learn everything from here inside the documentation. You can come here and everything that we talk about, they explained it here, okay? If you have any issue with some of the topics as we go forward in the course, you can find the exact information inside the Django documentation, okay? So let's learn how we can start our server. The first thing that we need to do is to come here to the top bar here and click on terminal and open new terminal, okay? And this is a similar terminal that we used earlier, but we will have it here inside VS Code to make our work much easier. So the code that we need to write down to start our web application and our server, and we can see that application, that website on a browser, is to write down Python 3 manage.py, okay, same as here, manage.py, space run server, okay? So Python 3 space manage.py space run server. If I press enter, okay, it will show some red text here, which later we will talk about it. Don't worry about that. But here, if you come, it will tell you about the Django version that you are using. And after that, there is a link with the port 8000. So I'm going to copy this link and come to my browser here and paste it. And then it will show me my Django project. So this is the project that I have created, and by default, it will show this page. And as we go forward, we will learn how we can change it and build our website here, okay? So this is how you can run your server. And if you pay attention here inside the files, when we run our server for the first time, it will create a file here called db.sqlite3. Okay, this is our database. We don't see anything here. And for now, as long as we are practicing and we are building our first web application, we are going to use this database. But later, when we get to the production level and we want to deploy our website on a host and make it available publicly, we will use other database, okay? But for now, this is our database, all right? And let me tell you one thing here. Since we run our server, this will keep going until we stop it. So this exists here. If I refresh it, it will work here. And I cannot write anything else here. And if I want to quit and stop this server, I have to write down Control C. So if I write down Control and C, it will stop the server. And if I refresh it, it will no longer work, okay? So that was all about this lesson. And the next part, we are going to learn how we can create Django apps. So see you on the next lesson. Welcome to this lesson. In this part, we are going to talk about application in Django. When we are building a website, we will divide the structure of that website into different sections, and each section is focused on a specific area. Imagine that we have an online store and we want to divide the structure of that website into different sections. For example, we can have a section for products, and we can have another section for users. When they sign up, when they create a profile, everything about users could be in that section. And also we can have a section for orders. Now on Django, each of these sections can interact with each other, can use the data from each other and work together. Pay attention that we're talking about the structure of the website, not what the users see, okay? In Django, instead of section, we call each of these application. So on Django, we can create different applications and each of them can be focused in a different area, and we can use the data in one application in another. Now let's go to VS Code and see this in action. All right, here we are in the project that we created earlier, and let's create a new application for this project. And you have to come to terminal. Pay attention that the server is not running. If it is, press Ctrl and C. And to create a new application, we have to write down Python 3 manage.py start app, and then we need to write down the name of our application, in this case products, okay? So to create a new application on Django, we have to write down Python 3 space manage.py space start app space and then the name of our application, whatever it is. In this case, I'm going to select products. So press enter. And if you pay attention here in the files, we have a new folder called products. Okay, this is the name we selected. And if I open it, inside it, we have different files and a folder here. The folder is called migration, which later we will talk about this. And then we have an admin.py. We have apps.py, models, tests, and views. And as we go forward, we will add more files to this list, and we will write some codes in each of them and work with them, okay? So this is how we can create a new application. And remember, an application in Django is just a section, okay? And these sections will help us to organize our website much better, especially if you are going to build a massive website with a lot of different details inside it. We need to keep things neat and organized. And using applications for each topic will help us to do that, okay? So that was all about this lesson. On the next part, we are going to talk about URLs and views. See you on the next one. In this lesson, we are going to talk about urls.py and views.py. Now, if you pay attention in our application folder products, we have a file called views.py, but we don't have urls.py. Now, I want you to go ahead, select this folder, and then create a new file and call it urls.py, okay? So we created urls.py, we already had views.py, and with the help of these two files, we can connect different pages together. We can tell our website which page should show which type of content. So first, let's learn more about the URL of a web page. URL is the address of our website. For example, when you go to the browser, you write an address there, okay? For example, here we have myshop.com. Now, when we're talking about the URL of a web page, we are talking about the next part of it, which we have a slash for example, products. Okay, this is the URL of our products web page, and we can have more to it. Okay, we can have, for example, a slash p-03, for example, it's one of our products. Okay, so to the first part we call website URL. Okay, and to the second part we call page URL. Okay, so along the course, when I'm talking about the web page URL, I'm talking about the second part after the domain. Okay, so let's have another example. Let's say we have myshop.com slash users slash puya. Okay, let's say we have created an application for users, and each user can have their own profile, and for example, this is the address for my profile. Okay, so how does it work? How Django understand which page with a specific URL should show which type of content? Now imagine here we have a user, okay, and this user, for example, want to load one of the pages on our website, for example, myshop.com slash products. Okay, the user want to see the products that we have on our website. Now the moment that the user write this down in the browser and press enter, it creates a request and send this request through internet to the servers that we have. Okay, the place that we keep all of our folders about our website, and the server that is running our website, the request will be sent there. Now after that, our server will look at the request and see, okay, there's a user that want to load a web page. Then the server will send the request to the urls.py file. Okay, and what will happen then is that inside that file, our Django application try to look for the address that the user has requested. Okay, and when it finds a match for it, then it will send the request to views.py file. Okay, these are the two files that we just mentioned inside our Django application folder. Okay, now when the request gets to views.py file, it starts to look through the codes until it finds a match. Okay, and after it finds a match, it gets the result that it needs to be shown on the computer. It will send that result to our user's computer, and our user can see the content for that page. Okay, so to recap, users send a request to our server send that request to urls.py file. urls.py will look at the address, for example, myshop.com slash products. When it finds a match, it will send that and tell views.py show the content for this page. Then views.py will look for that information, and when the content is ready, it will send those content to our users so our user can see the web page with the content. So what we're going to do on the next lesson, we are going to use these two files to show the content for each web page within a specific URL. Okay, so that was all about this lesson, about the explanation of how the system works and how Django will analyze the URL, and based on the requested URL will show the content. And on the next lesson, we are going to write some codes to make this system work. Okay, so that was all for this lesson. Things are getting more exciting, and I will see you on the next part. Welcome to this lesson. During this part, we are going to change the homepage of our website. Now, here we are in our folder. First of all, let me run the server. Python 3 manage py run server. Oh, I wrote it wrong. There's a space here. Okay, so now if I come to my website and refresh it, this is what we have right now. Now in a moment, we are going to change this. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do, I'm going to just make this smaller here. Now the first thing we need to do here in our main project folder, my shop, we already have a urls.py. Okay, so I'm going to close the other ones. And here, if we pay attention, these are comments. Okay, so avoid them. And here the code starts from this part. And here, if you pay attention, we have a list called URL patterns. And then inside it, we have a path. Now about this path, later in the admin section, I'm going to talk about it. But right now, we need to use this list here to connect this urls.py to the urls.py inside our application, okay, inside our products application. So how do we connect them? The first thing that we need to do, from django.urls, we need to import path, which already is done, and also add a comma and import include, okay? And after that, we need to add another path to this list here. So I'm going to write down path, and pay attention here, you have a comma, otherwise you will have an error. And I'm going to write down path and parentheses, and here inside the parentheses I need to give two parameters. The first one is in a string, which in a moment I will explain what it is. And for the second parameter, I have the ability to select a file. In this case, I'm going to select urls.py here. So I'm going to write down include, and then inside parentheses, I need to give the address for this file here. So I'm going to write double quotations and write down products dot URLs. Okay, we don't need to write the format, the .py here. Okay, this is enough. With this simple code here, the URL file inside our main folder will be connected to the URL file inside our application. And at the end, don't forget to add a comma. So before we go to the next part, one thing that will help you to learn Django much better is to do the things to complete each step with me. So you can pause the video and import include and write this line with me. And after that, we will jump into the next part, okay? So you can pause the video and complete this part. So the first parameter in path, I left it empty, okay? And there is a reason. Here you see we have admin slash, okay? But here I left it empty because this is the part that we write the URL address of our web page, okay? This is the address for each web page that we write in our browser, okay? I left it empty because I want to make changes in my homepage, okay? As we go forward and as we work with path, you will understand this concept better. Now it may sound a little complicated, but do not worry, okay? So close this file and go to the urls.py in our application products. And the first thing that we need to do, because it is empty and we created it ourselves, we need to import some of the data that we need from Django. So I'm going to write down from Django.urls, okay, import path, right? So we can use path in our list. And then I'm going to also import views.py, okay? So I'm going to write down from dot import views, okay? So this line, what it does is that when we write down dot, it means that we are talking about the folder that we are in right now, okay? And since urls.py is in products folder, okay, so we are targeting the files here. I said that from the folder that we are in right now, import views, which is this file. Now there is a reason, and in a moment I will explain. So the first thing that we need to do is to create our list, URL patterns, okay? And pay attention, the name should be exactly like this, URL patterns. And then we are going to have a path, okay? And inside it, the first part, we are not going to add anything because we are targeting the homepage. And here for the second parameter, we need to call a function inside views. So I'm gonna leave it empty and we'll go to views.py, create our function and come back here. So I'm gonna save it and leave this, the second part empty. Let's come here to views. Now the way that Django works, here inside views.py, we create some functions and these functions are connected to each page. And when we load the page, the request come here. This list will find the web page that we want to call. And then as the second parameter, we will call a function. And inside the function, we will prepare all the content and then show it to our user. So I'm going to write down def, for example, index, which will be our homepage. And inside parentheses, I'm going to write down request. Okay, this is the request that we talked about it earlier in the previous lesson, the request that the user sent, and then colon. And on the next line, I need to return a response, okay? So for now, I'm going to import something so we can send a simple response to understand that we had made changes for our page, and later we will improve it. So here I'm going to write down from Django.http, okay, import HTTP response, okay. So here after the return, I'm going to write down HTTP response, okay. And here inside the parentheses, I'm going to add quotation and just write down, for example, welcome to my website, okay? Just a simple sentence, right? Now, what will happen here is that inside urls.py, we need to call this function. So our code will understand that whenever we are loading the home page, this function should be called, and then we have to see this content, okay? So I'm going to come here for the second parameter. So I'm going to write down views, okay, dot index, which is the name of our function without parentheses, okay? So save both files, right? And then come here to our file, and the server is running, okay? And just refresh it, and here we see welcome to my website. Let me make it bigger, okay? This means that our code is working fine and we have completed this part. So before we go to the next part, you can pause the video and complete the urls.py and views.py. So before we go to the next lesson, let me explain the concept here, because if you don't understand it, the way will get a little bit difficult, okay? So the first thing that we did in urls.py in our main project folder, we connected that file to our urls.py inside our application products. Okay, let me close that. Products here in the urls.py. And then when a request comes, this list here will look at the request, and based on the text here, for example, if we want to target, for example, products here, okay, if I write it down, it will show me page not found error, okay? But I can come here, and let me show you, for example, path, and inside it, for the first part, I'm going to write down products, okay? And here for the second part, I need to select function from my views. Right now, I'm just going to select the first, the function that we already have. So if I come to this URL, let me save it. And if I come here and refresh it, we see welcome to my website, okay? So this URL here, this web page address is this one, okay? So when the user come to the browser and write this address, this request will be sent to, for example, urls.py. It will look for that address. If we have it, then it will go to views.py and load the content from there, okay? If not, it will show you that the page doesn't exist, okay? So this is how the system works. And on the next part, we are going to have a practice together, okay? So that was all. See you on the next lesson. Welcome to this practice. The objective of this challenge is to write codes in urls.py and views.py to create a page with the address of products/suit. And it should say, here is the list of our suits. So the objective is to create a new page with this address for the suit category in our website. And for now, it should just show this sentence. Here is the list of our suits, okay? So the first step is to add the second path in the urls.py. And the next step is to create a function for suit page in views.py, okay? It's a very simple practice, and I'm sure you can complete it. So pause the video and give it a go. All right, so here we are. I hope you have completed this part, and let's do it together. Let me zoom in so you can see everything better. And the first thing that we need to do is to add the second path to our URL patterns. And this is the urls.py inside our application. It's this one, okay? Not in the one in my shop, okay? It's the one that we created it in the previous lessons, okay? So let me close it and let's create the second path. inside parentheses. Now, here inside the quotation, we need to write down the address, which it was given by the objective of this challenge, which it was products slash suit. Okay. And for the second parameter, we need to select a function on views.py. So let's come here on views.py and let's create a new function. Let's write down, for example, suit cat as suit category. And here we're going to have request colon. And on the next line, we are going to return HTTP response. And inside parentheses and quotation, we are going to write down here is the list of our suits. Okay, so this is the message we want to show on our suit page, and this is the function we needed it. Let's come back to urls.py and write down views dot suit cat. Okay, so save it and let's come to our page and let's go to the URL we just created, products slash suit, enter, and here is the message. Here is the list of our suits. Okay, so this way we created a new page. Right now we have two pages here, the home page, okay, welcome to our website, and the other one here is the list of our suits. Okay, so it was a very simple practice, and you get better at these things by practicing. And one thing, let me tell you, based on my experience, every time that you create a new path, especially when you create a lot of pages, you're going to have a lot of path here. Okay, so you can write a comment for each of them in front of them and explain what this page is about. For example, for this part, we can write down suit product category. Okay, so later, if someone else want to work on our code, or if we come back to this page and want to work on this code, for example, after a couple of months, we understand each of the lines. Okay, it will help you in the long run, right? So that was all about this lesson. On the next part, we are going to talk about something really interesting, which is called dynamic URLs. See you on the next one. Welcome to this lesson where we are going to talk about dynamic URLs. Now let's compare something in website and web application. Let's say you want to use HTML and CSS to create just a simple website to show some content like a blog, right? Now in this way, you have to create all the pages one by one by yourself. For example, a couple of years ago, I created a website for a company with HTML and CSS and JavaScript. And to show their products, I created a page for each of the products myself. Now, imagine a company has 100 products. You have to create all those pages. Or for example, a website can have 1,000 users. And what should we do? We should create a profile page for each of the users ourselves. It would be extremely difficult and it will take a long time. And imagine you want to change something, for example, the font of the title in product page or in user's profile page, or you want to add something. You have to do this for all of those 1,000 pages or 100 product pages, okay? But the good thing here about web application is that we don't have this problem at all. By using Django, you only need to create a template for a product page, or for example, for user's profile page, and then Django use dynamic URL to create all the other pages for us, okay? So all we need to do is to create the template, and then Django will create all of the other pages, for example, for our products, the different products that we have, right? So let's learn more about dynamic URL in VS Code and how we can create it. All right, so here we are, and let's say we want to have 4 different category page for different products. For example, for suit, for dress, for shirt, for shoes, okay? And instead of creating different pages here, all we need to do is to remove this suit here and use angle bracket, opening and closing, and inside it, I'm gonna write down, for example, product, okay? Now, this is how we create dynamic URL. with opening and closing angle bracket and a text inside it, a name, okay? And then later on views.py, we will use that name. So I'm going to change the name of this function. Here it was suitcat. I'm going to write down, for example, product cat, okay? And inside the parameters that we're going to receive, beside the request, we will also receive product, okay? This product is this one here, okay? We will receive it from the URL. So we have the ability to use this inside our text. So if I convert this text to f string, here instead of suits, I can write down curly brackets and write down product, okay? Save it, and before we go to the browser, we need to change the function here to product cat. Okay, save this one and come here and refresh it. And now we have suit. Okay, so if I write down dress here, we'll have dress. Okay, if we write down, for example, shirt, here is the list of our shirt. It should be shirts. Okay, shirts. Okay, so this way we can make some changes and use dynamic content. You see, we created one page, but by changing the URL, the content will also change, okay? So before we go to the next lesson, I have a short practice for you. The objective of this practice is to change the products category function, product cat function that we just created in views.py file, so it only accepts 4 categories of products, okay? Right now, whatever we write in the URL, it will show us. But we only want to accept suit, dress, shirt, and shoes, okay? So pause the video and complete this challenge. All right, so let's look at what we have right now. For example, here, if I write down, for example, Puya, it will bring that page. And this is not right, okay? For example, we only have 4 product category page, and if someone writes something else, it should tell us that the page does not exist, okay? So how we can do that? It's very simple. Come to views.py file, and before return, we have to check the value of product. So I'm going to create an if statement and say if product is equal to, let's say, for example, suits, or product is equal to, let's say, dresses, or product is equal to, let me make it smaller, shirts, and finally, and the last, or product is equal to shoes. So if product is equal to one of these, go ahead and show us this content, okay? So I'm going to press tab once here in this line, so it will be indented. And for the else, if the user wrote something else, we want to return that the page that you are looking for does not exist. So let's change the sentence. The page you are looking for doesn't exist. Okay, so let's save it and let's come here. So let's search for example, products / Puya. If I do this, it will tell us that the page we are looking for does not exist. But if I write down, for example, suits or suit, okay, it should be suits, I think, right? Yeah, suits. So here we wrote down suits. So if we write down suits, it will work. If I write down shirts, it will work. Dresses work. And finally, it will be shoes. Okay, what's the problem here? Okay, we missed an O here. Save it and refresh. And here is the list of our shoes. Okay, so it is working. On the next part, we are going to make it way more interesting. Right now, we are returning just some text. But on the next lesson, we will learn how we can return a page like an HTML page, okay? So that was all for this lesson, and I will see you on the next part. All right, so till now we have learned how we can return a text, a string, when we load different pages on our website. But how we can return a real page like real HTML CSS page. So the first thing we have to do is to create a folder inside our products folder. So I'm going to select new folder here and write down templates, okay? And inside it, I'm going to create another folder with the name of my application. In a moment, I will tell you why you should do that. So products, okay? And inside products, I'm going to create a new file and call it home.html, okay? So here is our HTML file for our homepage, and we created two folders inside each other. The first one was templates, and the second one was with the name of our application. The reason that I told you you should create this folder is because when you create HTML templates here, if you don't use this application name, there is the possibility that if you create other applications and inside those applications you have some templates with the same name, the Django project will make mistakes there. To avoid bugs in the future, it is suggested to create the second folder and then add our templates inside that folder, okay? So we created templates, then products, then inside it home.html. Now what I'm gonna do here is to create a simple h1, okay? And inside it, I'm gonna write down, this is my homepage, okay? And I'm going to save it. Now, what I want to do is that in my views.py here for my index function, I want to show this HTML file, okay? So the way we have to do it is that come here and in the return, instead of HTTP response, we need to use render, okay? And then open parentheses, and the first parameter is the request, okay? The request parameter that we passed it earlier in our function. And for the second parameter, we need to mention the destination of our HTML file. In this case, I'm going to write down double quotation, and I'm going to write down products / home.html, okay? So if you pay attention, I didn't mention templates because Django itself will look into this folder, okay? I only need to mention the rest of it, products / home.html, okay? So if I save this and come here to my homepage, it will give me an error and it will tell me template does not exist, okay? So it's looking for this products / home.html and it didn't find it. The reason is because we need to tell our Django application to look inside the applications that we created. Right now, Django only looked here, okay? So how we can do that? We have to come to My Shop and open settings. And here, if you see, we have installed apps, okay? And we need to add our app here, this products application here. We need to add it in the settings so our Django project be aware that such application exists, and then it will look into the folders exist there. So I'm gonna come here and write down quotation and products, okay, and then comma. I'm gonna save it, and now if I refresh it, it will show my HTML file. And if I come to inspect here, so we have a body and here there's an h1, this is my homepage, okay? So now instead of showing a text, we are rendering an HTML file, okay? Now if you pay attention, when we came here and we wanted to write down a tag, before when we were writing HTML, it was completing the tags or changing the tags itself or suggesting them, but now it's not working. Now, on the next lesson, I will show you how you can fix this issue as well. So, see you on the next one. In the previous lesson, I mentioned about the problem that we have in our HTML file. So, if we come here and write down, for example, h2, it will not complete it, or if I remove all of it, and before we had the experience that when we write down HTML5, it will suggest us and it will complete all of the tags, for example, like head, like body, it would write all of them for us, okay? But now it's not working. And the problem here is that if you look at the blue bar here, If you don't have it, you can come here to view, appearance, and I think it was a status bar, right? Yeah, it was a status bar. Okay. If you don't have it, you can turn it on from here. And if you look at here, the language, it is Django HTML. It's not HTML alone. And the reason is because as we go forward, we are going to write Django inside our HTML file. So it should be on this, but for the time that you need to write just HTML, you can come here and write down HTML, select it. And now if I write down HTML, you see it find it and it will write all the codes for me. And I can change the title to my shop, for example, and save it. And after that, I can again change it back to HTML Django. Okay. So this is how you can fix this issue. Always pay attention to the language selected here. So let me add the title as it was before. Okay. And welcome to my shop. Okay. Save it and refresh it. We will have our text here and also the name of this page changed to my shop. Okay. So that's how you can fix this issue. And on the next part, we are going to learn how we can pass variables from views.py to our HTML. Okay. So see you on the next lesson. In this lesson, we are going to learn how we can pass a variable from views.py to our HTML file. Now, earlier in the course, we learned how we can create dynamic URL. Now here, with the help of this system, we can create dynamic content for our page. So every time that you refresh that page based on different situations, it can show you different kind of content. Okay. So how we can do that? First, we need to come to views and we are going to work on home.html here. And what I'm going to do here is to come and create a variable called user and set it equal to, for example, Tom. Okay. And how I can pass the value of this variable to my HTML file. We need to come here to the return line. When we are rendering our HTML file, we can add another parameter. The third parameter can be a dictionary. So I'm going to open and close curly brackets and press one time enter. And here I can write the variables that I want them to be passed to my HTML file. Now the first thing is the key. Okay, so I'm going to write down name and set it equal to the variable I made here, user. Okay, and then we need to have a comma. So this is the key and this is the value. And this value itself is a variable that has another value. Okay, so if I save this and come to home.html, if I come here and write down, for example, let's say h3 closing tag, and inside it I'm going to write down, for example, welcome back. And now I want to call the name. So the way we will write this is to write down two opening curly brackets and two closing curly brackets. And inside it, we need to write the key, which is name. Okay, so I'm going to write down name and I'm going to save it. Now if I come to my home page and if I refresh it, here I have welcome back Tom. Okay, so if my name is something else, okay, for example, if my name is Puya and if I save it, come here, the content here changes based on the content that we have here. Okay, it was very simple, right? Now I have a practice for you. Here is the objective of this practice. Create a variable called products num and set it equal to 4 integer. Then show the text below inside our homepage. You have 4 products in your bucket and you have to pay attention that the 4 products is bold. Okay, so on our homepage we should see a text look like this. Okay, but the 4 is not something that we write in our HTML. It should come from products num. Okay, so here are the steps. Create the variable inside views.py file, then pass the variable to the HTML file, and then call it inside the HTML file, okay? So pause the video and begin this challenge. All right, it should be simple. Let me make everything a bit bigger. Right, here we are, and I'm going to create the variable I mentioned, products underscore num, and set it equal to 4. And then I have to add it to the dictionary when we are rendering the HTML file. So I'm going to add a key, product num. Okay, it doesn't matter. The names can be similar. All you need to do is to select names that have some meaning, so later you can understand what does this variable do. Okay, and I'm going to come here, and here I'm going to write down, create a paragraph, and then inside it I need to write down, you have, let's say, 4 products in your bucket. Okay, so this is what we have to get, but this part, first it must be bold, and it also must bring the value from views.py. So let's make it bold first. I'm gonna add another tag here called strong. Okay, and let's make it smaller so we can see all of it in one line. And the closing tag, strong. Right, now here I need to replace this 4 with 2 curly brackets, and inside it I need to use this name, product num. Okay, so save it and come here and refresh, and we see you have 4 products in your bucket. So if I change this number to, for example, 7, save it, and now you have 7 products in your bucket. Okay, so that's how you can pass some variables, the values of the variables, to the HTML file and use it there to make the content of your page dynamic. So that was all for this lesson, and on the next part we are going to learn more about Django template filters. So see you on the next part. In this lesson we are going to learn what are Django's template filters. Now if you pay attention here, we brought the values here, values of the variables from views.py file. We brought them here, but we may need some additional changes based on the variables that we have. For example, here we have the name. Let me zoom in. We have the name, but it is nicer that the first letter of the name be capital, right? And we may not want to change the value here. For example, we may have the name of our user in our database saved like this, but here we want to show it on our homepage, we want to show it with capital letter. How we can do that? Now there is a system called Django template filters, and the way it works is that we can come here and add a vertical line here. You can write it by holding shift and pressing backward slash, and then write down, for example, title. So save it, and when we come here and refresh it, you see the first letter of this name is now a capital letter. We can make some changes like this. For example, I can come here and write down upper and save it, and now all of them is in capital letter. Okay, or I can write down word count, okay, to count the words inside this string. For example, if I come here and write down I am Puya and save this, now it is 3. So these are some filters. Let's go back. These are some filters that you can use when you are creating your page to show the value in a different way. In the resources of this lesson, I added this link from Django documentation, and it is called built-in template tags and filters. Now, don't worry about the tags. We will talk about it later, and you can focus on filters. And let's search for title, for example. And let's go for the last one here. Right, here it is, title. This is the title filter we just learned. And here are some other filters that you can have a look and learn more about them. For example, here we have the upper, okay? And if you search more, you can find the word count as well. All right, here's the word count. And under them, you can read more about what each filter does. For example, in word count, it will return the number of words, and it made an example here, okay? So if you're interested, you can go through them, but as we go forward in the course, I will mention some of them that we mostly use, okay? So that was all about this lesson, and on the next lesson, we are going to talk about something extremely important, which is called template inheritance. See you on the next one. Welcome to the next lesson. In this part, we are going to learn about template inheritance. Now, when we are building a great website, a great web application, one of the goals that we have is to avoid repetition, okay? So we try to make our code smaller and also do the job, right? But here, if you pay attention to our home.html, some of the content, some of the codes that we have will be repeated in all the pages that we have. For example, we have HTML tag, we have home tag, then there are some methods here, we have a title, then we have body tag, and so on. How we can avoid repeating all these codes? We can use template inheritance. Now, let me zoom back a little. So what I'm gonna do is to come to my main directory, my shop here, and create a folder, and I'm gonna call it templates. The reason that I'm creating this folder here is that as we go forward, we may have other applications inside our project, and those applications may want to use this template folder, okay? And inside it, I'm going to create a file called base.html. And then inside it, I'm going to create my template. Now, I want to have the codes that that needs to be repeated here, and then just import them in all the pages that I'm going to use. So the first thing that we need to do is to bring all the HTML tags here. So I'm going to change the language to HTML, and here write down HTML5, and then I'm going to go back to HTML Django. Okay, so this will be our base template. But some of the content here, for example, the content that will come between the body tag or the content between the title tag will be different in each page that we are going to have. So we cannot just simply use all of these in each of the pages. We need to make some changes. And the way we can do it is to use block tag. If you remember in the previous lesson, I mentioned this page from the Django documentation, building templates, tags, and filters. And if we scroll down, here we have block tag. And what it does, it will define a block that can be overwritten by child templates. So to learn more about it, we can click here and you can read more about it here in template inheritance, okay? But we can come here and let's say we want our title to be dynamic, okay? Meaning in each of our pages, the title should be different, right? We need to create block tag, and the way we write it is to write down opening curly bracket, %, closing curly brackets. And then here between them, we need to add our content. So here I'm going to write down block, and then I'm going to select a name for it. For example, I'm going to mention title. Right now, this is the opening tag. I need a closing tag as well. So I'm gonna write down curly brackets and % inside it, %, and here I'm gonna write down end block. So when we are using this template, I can just call this block and add my title here. So let's do the same for the body. So opening and closing curly brackets, %, and here we're gonna have block body. And then we are going to close this tag by writing down end block. Okay, so what will happen in the structure is that when we use this tag inside our child template, meaning for example here, if we use this tag and whatever we write between these two tags will be replaced here. Okay, so let's see this in action. I'm going to save it and come to my home.html. And I'm going to remove the codes that I don't need anymore. I'm going to remove these and this, and I'm going to bring them to the beginning of the line. And to import our template, we need to write a code at the beginning. We need to write down curly brackets, %, and here I need to use another tag which is called extends. So I need to mention what template I'm going to use here. And I'm going to write down base.html. So now our code here knows what template we are using. All we need to do is to use these tags to show the content. So I'm going to just copy and paste the title tag, and here I'm going to write down my shop. I'm going to add a new to it so we can see it's changed. And here I'm going to bring the body tag. Okay. And bring the closing body tag at the end of it. Okay. Right. And if I save it and come here and refresh, we get an error. And the reason is because our Django application does not know that it has to look to our templates folder. And we can do that. We can fix this issue by coming to My Shop, Settings. And here in our settings, if you scroll down, you get to the part which is talking about templates. Okay. Here, there is a directory. We need to mention the address where it should look for that templates file. Now, if you scroll up, there is a variable here called base dir, base directory. And the value of this variable will target this main directory here. Okay, will target this directory. So I'm going to use this value here, this variable here, and I'm going to come down to directories. And inside this list, I'm going to add base dir, okay, which is the variable at the top of this page that I mentioned right now, / double quotation templates. Okay. Now, if the name of my folder was something else, I would use templates. And before I save it, I need to add a comma here to make this a list. Save it. And now if I come here and refresh, we see our content. Okay. Now our Django application knows where to look for this template. Okay. Now this was how you can use a template like this and then use that template in different pages. Now, I want to add some side notes here. It's not simply just about programming. It will help you, these notes that I'm going to mention will help you to create a better website. So here in the tags that we are going to use in the base.html, I'm going to introduce 3 other tags which will be really helpful, especially if you want your website to be found on search engines like Google. So the first tag here is meta, and the name is description. Okay, and then we are going to have content, and I will leave it empty for now and close this tag. Now, whatever you write here, if you go on Google and search for something, for example, meta tag description, if you search for this, the text that comes here is this description that we just wrote down. Whatever I write here, it will be shown in the search engines under the link. Okay, this is the description tag we just mentioned. Okay, so I'm going to remove this double quotation and create a tag here, and I'm going to call it blog description, and then closing tag and block. Okay. And then I'm going to use this in my HTML file here above the title. We missed a curly bracket here. And then inside it, I'm going to add double quotation and write down this is my description. Okay, I'm going to save it. Let's come to our page, refresh it, and come to developer tool. And inside the head, we will have the description tag with the content. This is my description. Okay, so this was the first tag that I wanted to mention. And the next one is going to be another meta with the name of robots. And then the content, set it equal to double quotation, close the tag. And whatever I write here, it will tell the search engines to follow this page, consider this page inside the search engine or not. Okay, so I'm going to create another tag here. Let's just copy paste it to make it faster. And you can put it inside the quotation or outside the quotation, doesn't matter. So this time I'm going to just put it inside the quotation and change the name to, for example, robots. Okay, now let's come here to our home.html, and here let's write down, if you want the search engine to consider this page when they are looking at your website, you need to write down index, comma, follow. Okay, if you don't want search engine to consider this page, you have to write down no index and no follow. Okay, so if I save it and come here and refresh, we will have the robots tag with index and follow. Okay, so you see I used two different ways to show the content here. This one has the double quotation here inside this page. This one doesn't have it and has it inside our template. So you can use both way. I prefer it this way. So I'm going to change the previous one and bring the quotations here. And let's remove it from this part. Right. The next tag that I'm going to mention, which is really important in search engine, it is another meta with the name of keywords. Okay, and the content will be the keywords that you want to target in your page so you can rank in search engines. For example, on this page, I'm going to sell a modern black suit. Okay, now I want when people go to Google and search for modern black suit, my website come up there in the search result. Okay, to do so, beside that, I have to use that name, that keyword, modern black suit here in my page. I must have it in my keywords as well. I need to have it here. So let's create our block here. Block. And I'm going to call it keywords. And then end block. Okay. Oh, made a mistake. Right. And then end block. And then call this block in our page after the robots. And here, did I mention yeah, it's inside the quotation. So, and here I need to use my keywords. For example, modern black suit. And if you want to have more keywords, you can separate them with comma. For example, I can add my shop as well, save it, come here, refresh it, and now we have keywords as well. Okay, so these three tags are really important if you want your page to rank in search engines. Okay, so that was a side note, but it was very important, and I wanted to mention it here. So if you're building your future web application, you consider it right now. Okay, so that was all about this lesson, inheriting templates. And if you have any question, write it down for me. If not, I will see you in the next lesson. Welcome to the next lesson. During this part, we are going to import the website that we created earlier on this course, on the early chapters, like during HTML chapter and CSS chapter. Here is that website, and we are going to import this website, whatever we built there, to our Django project. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do, first of all, if you don't have the files for that website that we created earlier, you can download all of them as a zip file from the resources of this lesson and then unzip it, and then you will have access to all these files. So the first thing that we are going to do is to import our homepage that we created earlier into our Django project. So I'm going to come here, and this is my homepage, and I'm going to drag and drop it into VS Code. And I'm going to begin with whatever is inside the body tag. So I'm going to select all of them and come down to the end of the body tag. Okay. I'm not going to take the JavaScript code right now, and we will do it later. I'm going to copy this, come to my home.html, and paste it inside the block body tag. Okay. So I'm going to select all of these here and paste it. Okay. Now, if I save it and come to my page here, we will see only the HTML, and the CSS doesn't work right now, and that's okay. In the next upcoming lessons, I will show you how you can load the CSS files as well. Okay, so this was the first part for importing the HTML, and in the HTML file we created earlier, there are some other things at the top in the head tag which we will come back to it later in the next upcoming lessons as well. Now, I have a small practice for you. This was the home page, okay? I want you to go ahead, create a page for sign up, and then import the sign up page, this one, import the sign up page into our Django application, okay? So pause the video and begin this challenge. All right, so have you been successful? I hope so. Let's do it together. The first thing that we need to do is to create an HTML page here for our sign up page. So I'm going to call it signup.html. Okay. Let's close this index.html and come to our files. If you don't have this signup.html from our old website that we created, you can download it from the resources as well. I'm going to drag and drop it here. Now, when you have two files with similar names, it will show the location of each file as well to separate them, that this one is the file here and this one is the file on the other folder. Okay, so here is the sign up page that we created in early chapters of the course, and this is the sign up page I just made. And before I import all this information to my new signup.html, I need to import the template into my signup.html, the new one that I just made. So to make it easier, since I have done it before, I'm just gonna come to my home.html and copy all the block tags that we have here to my signup.html, and I need to add an end block after the body tag, okay? So here I'm going to add the content. Now I need to change some of them. For example, the title should be sign up, okay? And this page, for example, it should be follow. And for the description, I can say you can create an account on my shop store, okay? And I can add, for example, some keywords like sign up, my shop, okay, etc. So now my file is ready and I have the ability to import whatever we have in the body of our sign up page, older sign up page to the new one. Okay, so I'm going to paste it. I'm going to save it. And yeah, more or less, just later we need to import the CSS file, which later I will explain how. And I'm going to close it for now. Now I'm going to save it, but if I come to our Django project and if I click on sign up, it will give me an error. Now we need to do two other things. If you remember, we need to go to urls.py, okay, and views.py to create the page, right? We didn't create it yet. We just created the HTML file for it. So I'm going to come here. On the next line, I'm going to create another path for my sign up page, and here inside the quotation I'm going to mention sign up. And for the next parameter I need a function from views.py, and let's come to views.py for now. Let's save it. Let's come to views.py, and here we need a function. So I'm going to add it here as a second function, def sign up, and inside the parentheses we'll have the request and then colon, and on the next line we need to render the HTML file we created. So I'm going to write down return render, inside parentheses we pass the request first, then we are going to mention the file, which in this case it is inside the templates products. So I'm going to write down products / signup.html. Okay, so I'm going to save this, and we need to load this function in our urls.py. So I'm going to write down views.signup. Okay, and also I can mention, let's add the comma first and then mention what this page is about, sign up page. Okay, so save it. And now if we come here and refresh it, and if I click on this, it will not load the page because here it is trying to load signup.html. Okay, later in the next upcoming lesson I will show you how you can fix this issue, but for now we need to go to sign up URL, okay, without .html. And this is the page that we created. It doesn't have the CSS, but don't worry, as we go forward, I will add them to our project, okay? So that was all for this lesson. And on the next part, we are going to learn more about the dynamic URL tag, okay? So see you soon. In the previous lesson, we imported our old website that we created in the early chapters of this course into our Django project. But there was a problem. When we were clicking on the menu items, it wasn't working, okay? It was showing us error. Now, to fix this, we need to use URL tag. So let's come here to our home.html. Let me close views and sign up page and our template. So here we are in our home.html. And this is our header, and here we have the menu items, okay? So these are the links, but this address is not working, and the reason is because here, instead of just mentioning the HTML file, we need to use the URL tag. So I'm going to remove it, and inside it I'm going to write down curly brackets, and then inside the curly brackets we're going to have also the %sign. And then here I'm going to write down URL. And then I need to mention the name of the page that I want to load. Now here in the urls.py inside our application folder, we can add a third parameter to each path. So here we have the URL address, then we have the function that we want to load. And after that, we can write down name as well. So in this case, you can name it whatever you want. I'm gonna name it home, okay? So save it and come here. And now I can call it by the name I just mentioned in my urls.py here, okay? So I'm calling it home and save it. And let's go to our home page. And if I come here and hover the mouse here, you see at the bottom of the screen, it is showing me the home page. And if I click on it, I won't see any error. But if I go back and you see at the bottom of the screen, it is showing the index.html. And if I click on it, it will give me the error, okay? So let's go to the home page, and this time let's add the sign up URL. So let's come here to the urls.py. Let's add a name to it. Name is equal to sign up, okay? And then get this name, save it, come to our home.html, and here let's add the tag first, URL, and then the name of our page, which is sign up. So save it, refresh, and now if I come here, it will load the sign up page. So this is how you can use the URL tag to connect different pages on your website. But there's a problem here. If we come to urls.py, the second path that we have here, inside it we have a dynamic URL. How we can fix this issue? For example, let's add a name to this, and I'm gonna write down, for example, this is product category. I'm gonna write down product cat, okay, connected. And save it, come to home.html, and to test it, I'm gonna test it on view all suits, okay? So let's come down, scroll down here. Okay, here it is, view all suits. So if I come here and change this, and let's add the %sign, URL tag. And if I mention the name here, if I save it and come to my home page, refresh, we will have an error, okay? It will tell us that the address that you're mentioning here in the URL tag, it doesn't match with what we have. Because here we have a dynamic URL, the link tries to look for this, but we didn't provide it. So what we can do, we can come here, and whatever we mention after this, it will be for the first dynamic parameter. So if I come here and add double quotation and write down, for example, suits, okay? If I save this and refresh the page, now it's working. And if I hover the mouse, if you pay attention to the URL at the bottom of the screen, it says products/suits. So if I click on it, it will take me to the suit page. Now, if I come back here and change it, for example, to dresses, okay, and I save it, refresh here, Now it will take me to products/dresses. Okay, here is the list of our dresses. Okay, so this is how you can use the dynamic tag with dynamic URLs. Okay, and if we had more, for example, here we add other parameters as well. For example, let's say product ID, for example. If we add another dynamic URL here, if we come here, we can specify that dynamic URL by adding another double quotation, mentioning the next dynamic URL. Okay, if I save it and come here, refresh. Now, if I hover the mouse, it will try to take us to products/dresses/01. But when we get here, it will show us an error and it will tell us that product_cat function got a new argument that it didn't expect. Okay, product_ID. So if I take it and come here to views.py, where is it? Here. And add this and save it. Now it's working, okay? So this is how you can add the dynamic URLs as well. So let me just remove all these because we don't need them. I just made an example here. So if you have 3, 4, 5, as much as you need dynamic URLs, you can add them and mention them here by adding another quotation and then add the value inside it. Okay, so let me save it and let me check if it is working. Okay, yeah, it's working. So that was all for this lesson. And on the next part, we're going to talk about template snippets, which is really important for some items that will be seen on different pages over and over. Okay, so that was all for this lesson, and I will see you on the next part. In the previous lesson, we added the URL tag to some of the items on the header of our home.html. Now, if we come here to our home.html, these items are working, but on sign up page, they don't work. Okay. Now, this is a problem because when we want to change something like a header, we cannot go ahead and change it on all pages separately. Okay. And this is where we are going to use template snippet. Now, template snippet is similar to the template that we are using, but we use it for small parts that will be repeated like the header. So instead of having different headers on each page, we are going to build the header on a separate file and then load that file inside each page. So every time that we want to change the header, we don't need to do it for all the pages. We will only change it once in that separate file, and then all the headers in all the pages will be changed. So come here to the templates. Let me close this. To the templates folder in our main directory, and here create another folder called includes. Okay, inside it, create another file called nav.html. Okay, and then inside this HTML file, we are going to copy and paste the header that we built earlier. So I'm gonna come here and cut all of them and from my homepage and bring it to nav.html and save it. Okay, just copy and paste it and then it will be fine. And then on our home.html file, to load that header, all we need to do is to use include tag. So I'm going to write down curly brackets, then %, and then include. And after that, we need to mention the address of the file that we want to include here. In this case, includes /nav.html. Okay, so I'm going to save it. And now if I come to the home page, we will have the header the same way it was before. Now I can do the same for sign up. So I'm gonna just copy this line of code and come to the sign up page and replace it with the header. Okay, so let me indent it as well. Save it, come here and refresh it. And now we have our header here. And if I click on home, it will go on home. If I click on sign up, it will go on sign up. So we have one header in the nav.html file, but we brought it here on different pages. Okay, so this is how you can use template snippet, and it's very useful, especially when you have some items that will be repeated over and over and over on different pages. Okay, So that was all for this lesson. You can pause the video and complete all of the steps that I take to create this template snippet, same as me. And on the next part, we are going to work on importing the CSS files so our website look much better. Okay, so that was all for this lesson, and I will see you on the next part. During this lesson, we are going to learn about static files. Static files are those which are not going to change, or better to say, they are not dynamic, like CSS files, like images, like videos, and etc. Okay, so how we can import the static files to our project? For example, how we can use the CSS file we created earlier in this project. Now, if you don't have the CSS files for this project, these two, I added them in the resources of this lesson so you can download them now. The first thing that we need to do is to come to our application. Let me close this folder. To come to our application and here create a static folder. So static, and then inside it use the name of the application, in this case products. Create another folder with the name of the application, and then we are going to import our CSS files here. So here are the CSS files. I'm just going to drag and drop them on products, okay, and add them here. So these are our CSS files, and the next step is to import them into our project. But before we import them, we need to check something. Go to My Shop and then Settings, and go to the Apps, Installed Apps, and make sure that you have an app with this name, django.contrib.static files. Okay, so this is the first step. Check this. If you don't have it, add it here. The next step is to go to our template and add the style sheet there. So I'm gonna come down here inside our template base HTML, and here I'm going to create a new tag called link, and I'm going to close it so I don't forget it later, and the rel will be style sheet, and the next attribute will be href. So I'm going to create a block here. So whenever we want to change the CSS file inside each page, we have the ability just to change the place of it, okay, to load different files. So I'm going to create a block here, and I'm going to call it CSS. And let's create another tag to close it, and block, okay. So I can come here, copy and paste this into my, for example, homepage. And between these two, I need to mention the address of my CSS file. And if I just write down the address, for example, where it is, it's not gonna work. We need another thing. Here we need to load static. So I'm gonna come and write down curly brackets and %, and then here load static, okay? Now I have the ability to come here inside between my CSS block, write down curly brackets with parentheses, and inside it now I have the ability to use a static. Okay, I'm gonna write down static space double quotation, and here I need to mention the place of my static file. So I'm gonna write down products, which is the name of this folder here. Then it will be style.css / style.css. Okay, so I'm going to save it, and we need to restart the server. So I'm gonna go to the terminal and press Ctrl and C to stop the server, and then write down Python 3 manage.py run server, and then come here, and if we refresh it, we now have our style. Okay, so this was our website with CSS file, and you see all of the things we added as a style here. It's working. Okay, so what we did now, we went to base.html, we created our link tag here, and then add our block inside the href tag, okay, href attribute. Now you have the ability to create this tag outside of this link tag, and then inside every page we can come, and based on the needs of the page, we can have more than one link tag. Okay, I usually use one, but that depends on yourself. If you want additional tags, you can put this tag outside of this link tag, and then inside every page you need to write down the complete link tag all the way. And if you want to use 2, you can write down 2, 3, 4, and so on. Okay. So this was for the homepage, but if we go to sign up, still it doesn't have anything. So we need to load the sign up CSS there as well. So I'm going to just copy this inside my signup.html. Okay. And also don't forget that we need to load a static. So I'm going to load it here as well. And I'm going to change the name, sign up. Okay. Save it, come here, and now it works. But the header doesn't look so good because the CSS code for the header is inside the sign up. So I'm going to just bring them from here, from the style.css to signup.css. Just copy and paste them. So here is the navigational bar. I'm just going to copy all of it and come to signup.css. At the top, I'm just going to paste it. Okay. I think the main nav is repeated. Okay. Yeah, some of the items are repeated, so I'm going to remove them. And I'm going to save it, come here and refresh it. We need to, you can come here, go to inspect, and when you are on a developer tool, you can right click on the refresh button and click empty cache and hard reload. Okay. This way, because CSS is an static file, sometimes the browser keep cache to load the page faster. And you may make some changes, but every time that you come here, you refresh it and you don't see the changes. So make sure that open the developer tool and right click and hard reload the page if the changes you made, you don't see them. Okay, so here is our header. We don't see the logo, which we'll fix that in the next lesson. So see you on the next part. In the previous lesson, we learned about static files and we learned how we can import the CSS files we made earlier and import them into our project and use them. Okay, but in this lesson, I want to show you how you can use global static files. Okay, so you may want to use a CSS file on base.html file. So I'm going to make an example here. In the main directory, I'm going to create a folder called static. Okay, and inside it, I'm going to create a file called new.css. This is just an example. And I'm going to write down, for example, body. And let's change the background color to something obvious. And I'm going to add important to force it. Okay. And if I come to my base.html here, and let me just copy and paste this. And let's also load the static at the top. Okay. So load static. And if I come here inside the address for href, write down static, and then the address of my file, which is in the main directory, a static folder, the new.css. So we're going to write down new.css. And if I save this and come here and refresh, nothing will change. Even if I do hard reload, you see, we don't have the purple background that we selected. The reason is because our Django project itself, it will not look in the main directory for static files. We have to tell it. So open my shop and then open settings and then scroll down to the bottom of the page. And here we are going to add something from ourselves. Okay, so come here and write down with all capital letters, static files, underline dirs. Okay, and then set it equal to a list, and inside the list write down base dir. Okay, the slash in quotation static. Okay, now this will tell our Django application that take a look at our main directory, and if you found a static file, look into it and read the files that exist inside. Okay, so I'm going to save the setting and come here to our page. And now if I refresh it, you see now the Django project found the static file, the CSS file, and added the purple background. It doesn't look so bad, right? Here it doesn't look so good, but here it's better. Okay, anyway, this is how you can add global static file. But because I'm not going to use it, I'm going to come here and remove this new data static. I'm going to delete it. And then make sure that you remove it. I will keep this because later we will need this, but I'm going to remove it here from my base.html template as well. Okay, so save it, come here and refresh, and now it's gone. Okay, so this is how you can add global static files. And on the next lesson, we are going to have a practice. In the previous lesson, we learned how we can import global static files. Now in this lesson, I'm going to show you how we can import the logo here. And then as a practice, you have to import all of the images and the videos that we had earlier, okay? So I'm gonna come here to my project and go to images. And here we have our logo SVG. And then if I come to, let me close this, to the template folder in the main directory and open include, and then nav.html. Here, where is it? Let's find the, okay, here it is. It's trying to load the SVG file. So inside the static files here, I'm going to create another folder and I'm going to call it image, okay, img. And then inside it, I'm going to bring some of the main images that I'm going to use globally all over my website. So I'm going to drag and drop them, both the logo and the favicon. Okay, I brought them here. And then inside nav.html, we need to use a static. So I'm going to write down curly brackets and parentheses and percentage, and then static. Then I'm gonna write down the address. It will be image/brand-logo.svg. Okay, and before we check if it is working or not, we need to come here and load static. Okay, so let's save it and come here and refresh. And now here is our logo. If we go to homepage, we have it there as well. Now let's change the favicon. So for favicon, we need to come to base.html. And here we need to import it from our earlier HTML file. Here at the top, we had a link. Okay, we had a link tag, which included the favicon. So I'm going to copy and paste it after, let's say, the CSS file. And here for the address, again, we need to use a static. Okay, so static and then double quotation and then img /favicon.ico. Okay, save it, come here, refresh it, and now at the top we have our favicon as well, both on homepage and on sign up page. Okay, so we have it and it is working fine. And as the practice, I want you to come to home.html. Okay, let me close this. I want you to come to home.html, create a folder inside the static file. Inside products, here you can create a folder img, okay, and then add the images. If you don't have the images for here, the 4 images of the products and the video, if you don't have them, just download them from the resources of this lesson and use a static to show them. So pause the video and complete this challenge. All right, so that was easy, right? So we need to come here to the images. Okay, these are the 4 images that we need. Okay, I'm going to just drag and drop them inside image. And I'm going to scroll down. Let me remove this from here. It was for our category. We made it earlier and we let it be as comment. So here it is, our product intro, and this is our first image. Okay, suit 1. So all we need to do, I'm just going to keep this address, change it to products/img. Okay, I'm going to cut this and then load the static. Come here, static, and then inside double quotation, paste the address. Okay, so if I save this and come here, we see our first product image, and I'm going to just copy this and come down and paste it for the rest of the images. So here we will have suit 2. Here we will have suit 3. And here we will have suit number 4. save it, come here, refresh, and now we have all of the images available here. Now it remains the video. So let's come here, go back, and here we have a folder. It is our intro video is here. I'm going to come to products here and create another folder, call it vid, and inside it, and inside the vid, I'm going to drag and drop this intro video. Okay, close it, and let's come here. Let me just copy this, and let's find the video here at the intro. Here it is, the source of the video. And again, I'm going to use a static. And here, instead of image, we are going to have video and then the name of it, the name of the file, intro-video.mp4. Okay, I'm going to save it and come here and refresh. And we have our video as well. Okay, and it's working, it's fine. Okay, so this was how you can import static files like videos, images, and CSS files to our project. Okay, so if you have any question, write it down for me. If not, I will see you on the next part.